Students from Toronto and across the U.S. are heading to Washington tomorrow for the March of Our Lives to end gun violence. Similar events will be held around the world, including here in our city.
Let's go live now to CB24's Christy Bezaire for more on how this is going to unfold here in Toronto. Christy.
Well, Steph and Nathan, we're outside the U.S. Consulate on University right now, and this is part of the march route that will take place tomorrow as demonstrators hope to get the attention of U.S. government officials. So the route will actually start at City Hall, but they'll take a pause here and then continue on to Queen's Park. And this march is to protest gun violence in the U.S. and to honor the victims of the Parkland school shooting, which happened on Valentine's Day in Florida. 17 people were killed in the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Since that time, students have been demanding that U.S. lawmakers make changes and strengthen gun control laws. Sister marches are actually taking place in various cities right across the world. March for Our Lives is a student-led initiative, and they're calling on U.S. officials to strengthen gun control laws. The group Communities for Zero Violence will gather at City Hall at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and they'll march to the University Courthouse right across from the Consulate where we are right now, then head to Queen's Park, and the event will continue there until 1 o'clock. A bus is also going to leave Toronto tonight, heading to Washington, D.C. Here's more from members of Democrats abroad also taking part in the event.
You can expect a lot of passion because this is something that we've been fighting for a very long time. And although, the tragedy that took place in Florida was, one individual with a gun that he had no business having, but every day, we suffer losses of especially young people, lives taken away too soon. So we've been talking about gun control and trying to stop the flow of guns into our communities for a very long time.
It's important to me because I actually grew up in Utah, and so I've actually, seen what gun violence does to communities, and I've seen how much it affects just regular, everyday students. So this is exceedingly important for the future of America.
So again, this march is about keeping schools safe in the U.S. and keeping students safe. There's supposed to be a massive turnout both here in Toronto and an even bigger one, obviously, in Washington, D.C., where the original march is taking place. This all starts at 10 a.m. tomorrow. We'll also be talking to some people participating in the event at 5:30. Nathan and Steph?
All right, we'll check in later. Thank you, Christy. Students from across North America are heading to Washington tomorrow for the March for Our Lives. Similar events will be held around the world, including here in Toronto.
Let's go live now to CB24's Christy Bezaire for more on how it's going to unfold in our city. Christy.
Well, Steph and Nathan, we're outside the U.S. Consulate on University, and this is part of the march route that will take place tomorrow. It starts at City Hall, but people who are taking part in this parade want to get the attention of U.S. government officials, and I'm with two of them right now, two of the organizers. Come on, close. So, father and daughter here, tell us your names.
Alex Gallant.
Cynthia Gallant.
And Cynthia, you guys were on the Facebook group website. I know that your dad said you don't have Facebook, but he does. And you guys were part of getting this organized here in Toronto?
Initially, yes. Cynthia saw what was happening in Parkland and the march on Washington, D.C., and she said to me,
I originally wanted to go to Washington, D.C. for the march down there, but we couldn't do that, so we decided to start our own in Toronto.
Okay, so how many people are you guys expecting? Tell me what the numbers look like right now.
I think something like 1,000 or...
There's 1,000 interested. There's about 571 confirmed, they said. So we put the Facebook together, started going with it, and then Communities for Zero Violence sort of partnered in with us, and they've been doing a lot of the work. They've been quite amazing, and to them this is it's not new to them. They did a rally like this about a year ago, last April, trying to bring awareness to gun violence, because it was started actually Community for Zero Violence started by mothers who have actually lost loved ones through gun violence. So
Cynthia, this obviously targeted school-age children, people who are around your age, the Parkland, Florida shooting. How did that impact you, and how did you feel after hearing about that story on the news?
Well, when I heard about the Parkland shooting, it wasn't so much the actual shooting itself. It was Emma Gonzalez's speech about gun violence that really affected me, and so then I started thinking about how strange it is that like people aren't doing anything about gun control, and it kind of like made me angry. I was like, okay, we have to do something about this now. So
what are other kids your age saying? Because I know that it's a major issue, but it's also a U.S. issue, and we're here in Canada where presumably we're a little bit safer.
Well, I mean, the kids at my school don't really talk about it, which I don't really like that, because like I feel like people should be more like focused on this, because it's really important. But like kids my age aren't really saying anything about it, but it's mostly high school students.
But they will be here tomorrow. A lot of them will be out here.
Yes.
With you. Okay. All right. Well, a young activist here, Cynthia, congratulations to you. Well done. And Nathan and Stephanie, we know for sure that we will be covering this march live on CP24 tomorrow when it begins at 10 a.m. at the outside the courthouse. No, it will start at Nathan Phillips Square. Head outside the courthouse on University, where we are right now, and it finishes, tell us those details.
It finishes at Queen's Park, and there'll be some speeches.
And speeches will last until 1 o'clock. So we'll be covering that entire event live for you and bringing everything to you as it happens. Back to you.
All right, you got it, Christy. Thank you.
That.
The March for Our Lives happens tomorrow, with demonstrators hoping to end what they call an epidemic of mass school shootings. Events will take place across the globe, including here in Toronto. But there's at least one group of Canadians that won't be marching here. They are headed straight to the streets of Washington for the big rally there. Our Greg Ross is catching up with them before their trip. He joins us live from Union Station. And what are they telling you, Greg?
Well, Maribel, these are a group of people that actually were originally planning to come here to Toronto to march in the parade that is happening here. But they ended up connecting on social media. And I'm talking people from across the country that are a part of an organization called Democrats Abroad. And what they decided is they're all people who have citizenship in the U.S. and they just felt that they needed to be down there marching in the big march in Washington. And I have Annie Perry here. She is a board member of Democrats Abroad, and you helped organize this, at least played a small role in organizing this. And it's a pretty incredible thing that you guys were able to pull together in a couple of weeks, because you managed to get a bus that's literally starting out in Ottawa and making its way across, I guess, southwestern Ontario before heading down into the United States and off to Washington.
Well, Democrats Abroad are natural marchers, and we feel compelled to be there to make to let the people in the States know, the young people that are it's so exciting to see them marching. It's tragic how it came to be, but they're really the leaders, and we want to support them. We want to let them know that we're behind them 100%.
So, I mean, there's a couple of messages for your group anyways this weekend at this march. Number one, of course, is gun violence. And you mentioned that not that long ago, well, maybe a while ago, but you experienced gun violence in the United States.
We were very close to the Columbine shooting in '99. We were living in Denver and moved back to Canada at that point. I have dual citizenship. And then in Santa Barbara in 2014, we were very close to the Isla Vista shooter. And then in 2003, I heard the gunshots from the Goleta postal shooter. So when you hear the word "go postal," that was where it began. So my kids grew up going to school both in Canada and the States, and they regularly practice drills and to be prepared for the unspeakable attack. So it's terrifying as a parent to know your kids are going to school and they might not come home alive.
So one message, obviously, it's against gun violence, but the other thing you want to go down there is to tell people to get out and vote, because that's the only way that change is going to happen if you get the right people in office. So that's one of the other messages, Maribel, that they're going down there with this weekend.
All right, thanks for this, Greg.
We're live over at Nathan Phillips Square right now, where a rally is going to take place to coincide with the anti-gun march in Washington this weekend. There are U.S. expats here in Toronto who are going to be heading south to that rally. CTV's Tracy Tong joins us now live at Union Station with that. Tracy.
Well, Ken, there will be a bus leaving Union Station shortly carrying dozens of members from Democrats Abroad to Washington, D.C. for a rally. They are members who say they feel compelled to send a message to protect kids, not guns. The mother on the left will be in Washington for the March for Our Lives tomorrow, and her daughter here in Toronto. But their message will be the same.
If you really do believe that, gun violence is wrong and that there should be some sense of safety, then, get up and say something. Gun control!
There is a united cry for change. So far this year, gunfire has erupted in American schools 18 times, including the February shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, that took 17 lives.
I'm terrified for the next victims because there will be.
And tomorrow, as students demand gun control at the March for Our Lives rallies across the states, north of the border, Torontonians will march with them.
As an American and a Canadian citizen, I think it is important to march up here to show solidarity with our American neighbors.
The march will start here at Toronto City Hall. They will then go westbound toward the American Consulate before heading up to Queen's Park. Some of those attending say they are also calling on our governments to take action.
They can, when it's appropriate and in negotiations, bring it up as a point of contention.
A group of Jewish youth in Vaughan gathered today ahead of the march.
School is already hard enough these days for youth with anxiety and other mental health stuff that we don't think guns should be an addition to that.
Dozens of members with Democrats Abroad Toronto will be traveling to Washington to march there. Chuck Schammel says he will be resigning his membership with the National Rifle Association.
I bought a life membership when I was very, very young, and it has now come to the point where I can't do it anymore. I can't be a part of it anymore.
Choosing now to be part of a movement in an effort to protect their kids. And that bus will be leaving Union Station, heading to Washington at around 7:30 tonight. The march in Toronto will begin at 10 a.m. tomorrow at City Hall. Reporting live, I'm Tracy Tong. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Tracy.